If you're buying or selling a home in Vermont in 2024, you're going to want to watch this video. We're going to talk about what makes Vermont one of the most stable housing markets across the country, and we're going to look at leading indicators to let you know whether home prices are going up or going down as we move throughout the year here. So we're going to talk about all that as well as a few changes to Burlington zoning and some new projects that are in the work that will have impacts to the real estate market as we move into 2025, 2026, and beyond. So before we get into all that, my name's Liam O'Reilly. I'm a realtor here in Vermont with Jerry Riley Real Estate. If you have any real estate needs, feel free to reach out to me directly. All of my contact information is in the description. And let's get right into it here. So the first article, Burlington Metro ranks in the top 20 best housing markets for growth and stability in the US. So they talk about here, Burlington ranks 17th over the past 25 years with a 192% increase in home price since 1998. And that's what this chart right here shows. So number 17, Burlington, South Burlington, right in that highlighted section, you can see home price growth, home price change since 1998, up 192% from 1998. And the historic rate of home value loss is 0%. Now, what that means is if you buy a home and then you go to sell it in 10 years, any 10-year period over the past 24 years that they measured, how likely were you to sell your home for less than what you paid for it? And that didn't happen in the past 24 years. And historically, hasn't really happened in Vermont, at least as far as the data shows, which goes back to the 1980s. Now, why is this? Why is Vermont one of the more stable housing markets across the country? Well, there's a few reasons for that. One of them is inventory. Vermont, we don't build massive neighborhoods like you see in some of these other counties or cities across the country, like Austin or Florida, where they put up thousands of homes in a year and sell all of them. We don't have any of these major home builders that play in our area. And on top of that, we don't have a lot of variability as far as investors go. There's not a ton of foreign investors coming in to buy rental properties, to buy real estate here in Vermont. A lot of the demand is relatively stable. It's people who are moving here to get away from a city, who want to enjoy a smaller town and live the Vermont lifestyle. And a lot of Vermonters don't move away. So those two things combined means that there's a lot less volatility, right? As markets change, sure, there's going to be less demand and in recessions and things like that. But with lower inventory and less volatility from investors, home prices have historically remained relatively stable throughout the past 20 years. And we can see that from this chart from Vermont Housing Finance Agency, VHFA. So this is a chart of the median sales price throughout the state of Vermont since 1988. And you can see that there was a small dip here in 2008 when, the US housing market crashed by around 25% or so from peak to trough on a year over year basis. The Vermont housing market just experienced a mild dip. So from 200,000 down to 190. And then again, another small little dip here from 2013 to 2014. But overall, home prices remain relatively flat or increase, or at least that's been the trend in the past. Now, as we move into 2024, what you're going to want to look for are these indicators. We're going to go over to the market insights. Now, this is the month over month data of the median sales price. You can see that there's volatility between months, and a lot of that has to do with who is selling their home, who is buying their home, right? There's less people buying and selling in the winter around right now, around the start of the year, than there will be in the summer and in the spring when the schools are out, when the weather's nicer, when the days are longer. More people buy and sell homes that time of year, and that has a seasonal effect on the median sales price. But what we're going to look at as a leading indicator to whether to where home prices are going is going to be the month supply of inventory. So this essentially is a ratio between home buyers and home sellers. Now, this blue line here is what's considered a balanced market. So 4 to 6 months of supply is considered balanced, right? Neither the home sellers or the home buyers have a advantage. There's generally, equal number of homes on the market as there are people who want to purchase those, right? This is the rate of pace in the market, the ratio between homes for sale and transactions going on. So as you can see right now, we're way under the that balanced market. We're at 2.3 months supply across the entire state. Now it's up 13% from last year, but it's still very low on historic terms. And you can see that even if the month supply increases drastically, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to see a drastic drop in median sales price, but it does mean that if you're a home buyer or a home seller out there, that the buyers have the advantage. That if you're a home seller, you might have to negotiate more on your price or give more concessions. And if you're a home buyer, you'll be able to get a better deal out there in the market. Now, that's not to say that right now, even with this low months of supply, that if you're a buyer out there, you can't find a good deal. There are good deals to be had in this market. And generally what you want to look for are homes that have sat on the market for a little while. Oftentimes in those situations, the seller might be more anxious to sell. Now, it's a case-by-case basis. Some sellers will keep their home at the same price and let the market appreciate up to the value that they want to sell it for. Others will be more motivated. Maybe they have to move for a job, or they want to buy a new property and need to sell their current property. So they might take a discount on price. So generally speaking, if you're a buyer out there and you want to find a good deal, then you should look for homes that are a little bit longer on the market. And this month supply of inventory gives a good sense of whether or not right now is a buyer's or seller's market. So you can clearly see right now the low months of supply. That means we're still in a buyer's market, even though things have shifted a little bit and shifted drastically from where they were in 2021 and 2022. We're not seeing huge price growth, but sellers still have the advantage in most situations. Now, other leading indicators that you're going to want to look for: active inventory. So active homes for sale across the entire state are way down. You can see this based on the chart. They're down from the prior period, month over month. Again, part of that is seasonal, and then they're up slightly year over year, but basically unchanged. And we're well below historic norms. We're well below pre-pandemic levels. And so we really need to get up to this 6,000 to 8,000 home mark to create more of a balanced market, to have more normality with days on market, with month supply of inventory, and to create more stability in the overall housing market. Now, right now, there's not that many people listing their homes on a historic level, new listings, which again is another leading indicator to look for. If there's more people selling their homes right now, then that could mean that active inventory is going up and months of supply is increasing, which all will have an effect on the median sales price, as well as how much value you can get for your home. Now, you can see here that, again, new listings are very volatile. They're very seasonal. More people sell their homes in the summer than they do in the winter, but we're still well below the pre-pandemic range for new listings, and this year is no different. We saw less listings than ever before in this chart. So they're up year over year slightly, again 11%, which is about 20 homes. But overall, there's less people buying and selling their homes. So if you're a buyer or seller in the market and you want to know, is now a good time to buy? Is now a good time to sell? Where are home prices heading? You should come over and look at this data. And I do a weekly market update every month on this channel where we talk about these indicators in depth and talk about what's going on in the overall housing market. So feel free to follow this channel and you'll be able to stay in tune with what's going on. But one thing I wanted to note is that even if we see month supply of inventory shoot up to where it was at 24 months at its peak in January of 2015, we still aren't likely to see year over year price declines. Now, we did see a slight decline from 2013 to 2014, but in 2015, home prices ticked back up a little bit. So generally speaking, even in a buyer's market, here in Vermont, home prices remain relatively stable. So if we were to experience some sort of price drop, some sort of decrease in home prices that we haven't seen before, where's that likely to come from? I think it's likely to come from a big place where it could come from is if work from home starts to shift, right? Vermont doesn't have a ton of industries in the state. So a lot of people that moved here during the pandemic are working from home, are working remotely. If we start to see a big shift away from the work from home craze and more businesses are requiring their employees to go back to the office, then we're going to see more forced sellers, we'll see more inventory. And I think in that case, we could see a median sales price drop. So what as you're considering to buy or sell a home, you should look at not only the active inventory, only the days on market and the month supply, but also look out for headlines that show indications of where the work from home trend is heading. If it's staying stable or increasing, I think that's good for Vermont home prices. Again, we're building, but we're not building that fast. And as long as this work from home trend stays relatively stable, we should see stable prices moving into the future. Again, we don't have the volatile demand from investors, from institutions that some of these other cities have. Now, what are we going to experience moving into the future? So I wanted to bring up this article here. This is just out of the City of Burlington's website, talking about new housing for UVM students. So the City of Burlington has agreed to accommodate around 2,500 new homes for faculty members, for graduate students, for undergrads at UVM. And I think this is really good for overall housing across the Burlington area, because these UVM students, if you're a renter around the area, you know that rent is really high. And a lot of that has to do with UVM students not being able to find housing, and, being their parents or their loans that they're taking out can support a higher rent so that they can get through school. And so I think part of that is driving up rent prices. So as more of this building comes into existence, hopefully that will put some downward pressure on rents, stop rental appreciation, and stabilize things across the rental market in general, which should help the median sales price as well, help home prices flatten out, allow affordability to catch back up with the average home buyer in the next 3, 4, 5 years when this housing is being built. Now, some other zoning changes that took place. They switched zoning around in the South End Innovation District, that bottom highlighted section right there, which is by the Hula building. So I expect over the next 5-10 years that there's going to be a new neighborhood built in that area, which will bring much needed housing to the city. And then there's a handful of other zoning changes that Burlington is considering right now to help alleviate the housing stress moving into the future. Now, I think over the next 5 years or so, we should see more stabilization in the Burlington housing market. I think things are going to start to stabilize. We're going to see supply be built up to meet the demand that is here, and we're going to see home prices and rent prices stabilize along with that. Now, again, I don't think we're going to see a massive crash in home prices unless something drastically changes with work from home, or maybe like UVM goes under, which it doesn't look like it's going to, something like that. And then all of a sudden, people have to leave the state. There's less demand for housing. But so far, Vermont is a really stable place to purchase a home. There's not much on the horizon that indicates that home prices are coming down locally. But look at those indicators. Make a smart decision, buy within your means. And if you have any housing needs, reach out to me directly. I'd be happy to help. Thank you again for watching this video, and leave me a comment. Let me know what you think.